Welcome to Invincible, the series where we talk about the Invincible operating system. We talk about what it is, why you should use it, how organizations are implementing it. I'm Bronson. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mike Opedal. Mike, how are you doing on this fine Thursday?
I'm fantastic. Bronson, we had a little tropical storm down here to start the week off, but it's bright, sunny skies today. So I've got very little, if anything, to complain about.
That's awesome. You're not much of a complainer anyway.
Not really. What was the quote we used in stand-up today? Let me find it for us. It was, life is 10% what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. So yeah, definitely someone who likes to react the right way to things.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing. I guarantee something's going to happen today that you didn't want to happen.
Guarantee it.
True for everybody.
It's true for all of us. There's going to be some things that happen we're not excited about, but we can choose to respond in a healthy way, which again gets our mind right and helps our leadership, our influence go to the highest level. So
absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about being invincible. I want to pull up my screen here. We're going to remind you of the definition of invincible to start. Invincible means too powerful to be defeated or overcome. That's the mindset we were just talking about, Mike. An invincible mindset it's about how I respond, not what happens to me. We're really trying to help organizations be invincible by having teams that are invincible. So last week we talked about really the three parts of the invincible operating system. And what we mean is when we go into an organization, we want to implement all three of these things. Mike, tell us briefly, remind us why the assessment is the first part of the Invincible operating system, the episode we did last week.
Yeah, I mean, quickly, it's if you don't take time to assess where things are at, what's current reality, then at best, you're accidentally going to be good, right? And that's the idea, this idea between accidental versus intentional. If you want to intentionally become invincible, if you want to intentionally develop your people and their teams, if you want to intentionally grow the organization, you have to have an assessment to understand what's my reality and where should I focus to improve.
Absolutely. If you're an organization and you're listening to this and you're thinking about bringing a consultant in to work with you, if they don't ask to assess your teams and assess your people as the first thing they do, that should give you pause. How do they know where to focus, right? So that's the first thing we do with the Invincible operating system. Today, we're actually going to zoom in and talk about the toolkit, though. We'll talk about the process next week, but we get to talk about the toolkit. I'm excited because I know how excited Mike is about the toolkit. I think we could say the toolkit has changed Mike's life. But let's start with this. Actually, let me go to this other screen here. Yeah, right here. So, there's the accidental organization and the invincible organization. Let's talk about those two ideas through the lens of the toolkit. So the first thing we have written down there is with an accidental organization, the standard isn't clear. But with an invincible organization, the standard is clear. How does a toolkit allow the standard to be clear in an organization? What does that mean?
It gives you objective language. A lot of times I hear, hey, Bronson, you just need to lead better, dude. You just need to step it up. Like I've noticed your leadership, it's just not up to par. And you walk away going, what in the world do I do with that information? But if I say, hey, Bronson, I noticed you bring a lot of challenge to your team. Like you're always bringing that really high challenge. I've noticed that sometimes you lack support. And so your team feel like there's maybe some fear and manipulation in the water. Then all of a sudden it's very objective language. He understands, okay, he's talking about my leadership style as being high challenge. Right. So you use a tool to give you really objective language to be able to say, hey, the standard is actually clear. We expect you to be high support and high challenge. Okay, I know what that means. Versus, hey, Bronson, you just got to get better.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. I know I need to get better, but I don't know what to do with that. We all need specifics. And you mentioned two really important things. There's the common language, and there's also the visual aspect of it. Right? So you talked about there's a common language. So support and challenge, we're going to talk about that in a minute. It's going to be the tool that we kind of highlight today. That's a common language. In Giant, when we say the word support, we know what we mean. We have a specific definition of what support is. When we say the word challenge, we know what that means. We have a specific definition of what challenge is. So we can just cut to the chase in a meeting, say, hey, I think that person needs more challenge or more challenge. I think this group needs more support. I think we need to calibrate our support and challenge better in this area. And we can have that common language. But there's also the visual nature of a tool. Why is it so important for a tool to be visual and not just 2 pages of text, right?
Well, I mean, so the concept is called neuro-linguistic learning. And what it is, it's really adult learning, which means we take a visual tool and we stick it up. And you'll see here in a minute, we talk about the matrix or an infinity loop, right? Or a graphic with or an X factor, right? When you see those tools, it actually gets burned into your memory. So as adults, we're actually really good at remembering visuals, but we're not good at remembering 2 pages of text. As a matter of fact, if you read 2 pages of text and you don't quickly tell people about the text you learned, your retention goes down by 70%. So the reality is with a visual tool, it gets burned into your memory. Like today, Bronson said, if you're watching this episode, you will not forget the matrix we're going to show you. You might forget 1 or 2 of the words, maybe, but people will go like, hey, there's a matrix and it's important and it means support and challenge. So again, it's just this idea of it's got to be memorable, because here's the thing. There's a lot going on in our day-to-day, in our leadership, in our work, in our business. We need to be able to recall something quickly and use it, not say, hey, where's that book on my shelf with like the 5 pages about that strategy? I mean, dude, I've got a whole box full of books because I just moved right here. I couldn't tell you where those specific insights are right now. It'd take me a while to find them.
That happened to me a couple nights ago. I had friends over at the house. We were in a conversation that was really deep and exciting. And there was this concept in a book. And I knew the book. I went and found it on the shelf. And I was like, what pages is it on? Nothing was visual. It was just text and a sea of text and a sea of text. I flipped around for 15 minutes and finally I said, just take the book and read it when you get a chance. I can't find those 3 pages, right? Because it wasn't a visual tool. I love the way you said it. Neurolinguistics burns it in your mind. You've heard the quote, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can remember a picture. You can't remember 1,000 words unless you're a savant. So in accidental organization, the standard isn't clear and they lack a common language. Not because they want that, it's because they don't have visual tools. Also, communication isn't remembered in an accidental organization. It's all the things we just said, right? When there's this idea of the sage on the stage, right? Somebody comes in and they're a consultant, they're a guru, they know everything about this one area, and there's this event, and they get on the stage and they vomit all their knowledge for, an hour or 2 hours. And it looks like Mike has left us. We'll see if he gets back online here. Hey, there he is. I don't know if it was your connection or if you were actually gone. So they vomit on the stage for a couple hours, and then you feel really good while they're up there. You're in the audience, and you're saying, oh, this is brilliant. I love what they're saying. This is breakthrough. This is huge. And then a week later, do you actually remember what they said, Mike?
No. I mean, that's the thing is like, I've been going to conferences my entire adult life, trying to get better in my leadership and the way that I work and the way that I'm efficient. And I've heard lots of great things said from stage. And it's rare that I remember, like, I love telling the story about Jim Collins, as a matter of fact, is a fantastic author. His organization's amazing, good to great stuff. Then all the leader stuff he's done after that. And I actually remember 2 things that he said years ago. And I'm actually pretty impressed that I can remember 2 things he said. Right. And so to your point, it's like this sage on the stage. I love how you said it. They get up there and they have a really, really sharp domain expertise in something really specific. And they may be the best in the world at that, but we're not going to remember the majority of the things they say. At best, we might remember 20%.
And you know what? Let's use Jim Collins as an example. I mean, I'm a fan of Good to Great, Built to Last, his entire work. Yep. The only things I remember, because he doesn't use visuals, the only things I remember kind of are the things that are visual, at least in words. So for instance, the flywheel, I can see a flywheel, right? The right people on the bus. I picture a bus with people on the seats. The things he taught or wrote about that don't at least have a mental visual component that I can conjure up, I don't remember them, and I never will, right? And so he's almost there with some of his concepts, but what if you took every concept and made an actual visual with actual lines on an actual screen or printout that you could see? That would burn it into your mind. And so, with a toolkit, communication is remembered. It won't be forgotten. And then lastly, with the accidental organization, it doesn't improve the organization. And now this is tricky because you think having a sage on a stage, you think, doing the event, you think buying the book for them and saying, hey, we bought all 100 people a copy of this book. You think you did something because you had a good intention. I mean, nobody brings in a speaker with bad intention. No one buys a leadership book for all their people with bad intention. They're doing it because they care and they want to move their people forward and help them grow. But it doesn't actually improve the organization in any tangible way. But if you're using tools and they get baked in to the fabric of that organization, it actually improves who they are. Mike, there was a really cool image this week passed around HQ of someone that redid the walls inside their office to reflect our tools, our language. Tell us about that real quick, what they actually did there.
Yeah, it was powerful. And I won't say the company's name in case they don't, I would give them props, but they're in Atlanta, Georgia. And what happened was they went through our 5 voices, which is, as you know, is our psychometric that we use to help people understand and value one another on a team, right? And what they did is they took the 5 voices and they put images on the wall of that character, and they actually put the words that describe that character on the wall. So now as they're walking around through the halls, about to walk into someone's office, they're going, oh, I remember Bronson's a pioneer. I need to remember how he likes to be communicated with. I want to value and appreciate what he brings to the table. So they literally put visuals on the wall with words to remember who are these characters and how can we bring out their best in every single person.
Absolutely. And, the 5 voices, that's a part of our toolkit. It's that visual. I can see the visual right now with the volumes of each voice and what percentage of the population. I can see the visual in my head. Yep. I read 5 Voices book. I don't remember the pages where it was talked about. Right. I remember the visual in the toolkit, though, of the 5 voices, right? And so here they are with it on their wall because it's actually improved the organization. I mean, think about that. How often does an organization read a leadership book and change what's on their walls?
Very rare. And I'll give you another example, by the way. We have another tool called the 5 Gears. You know it. It's how to be emotionally intelligent. It's how to be present and productive. We have a client right here in Southwest Florida, a real estate company, and they literally have rooms, like their break room says 3rd gear on it. Like 3rd and 2nd gear. Like, hey, when you go into the break room, don't bring your work into the room. Like, leave it at the door. They literally repainted their walls with white and blue. But to your point, it actually was a visual that they remembered. It was so impactful. It changed the way they operated at work and at home. So they put it on the wall.
Absolutely. So I want you to think for a second, your favorite leadership book you've ever read, what would you put on the wall from it? And you probably don't know, unless it's a visual, unless it's strongly neuro-linguistically burned in your mind, it probably hasn't improved you or the organization enough to be the wall. But that's what tools can do.
Yeah, what's funny, I'm going to play your game. Oftentimes, Bronson, you're asking questions and I have no idea what you're going to ask and you're always setting me up. But honestly, one of my favorite leadership books is Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a stud. The guy has built a ridiculously successful organization around getting people out of debt and helping them with leadership. And he's a stud. In that book, there's something about not having gossip in the organization. I don't know where it is. I'd have to flip through and find it. But I might put no gossip on the wall because that's really important to me because it tears down and creates toxin. But I literally played your game. That's probably the one thing I can remember from that book right now that I'm going, that was impactful. We actually used it in our values and it came from a chapter he had on getting rid of drama and gossip.
Absolutely. Right. But you know what I do have in my mind right now is our tool, go to the source. I can see that, right?
Which funny is also, this is also a tee up. It's not, but it is because when I left my first giant retreat as a client, I drew go to the source on every single whiteboard in my company. You can go ask my employees. It was so powerful because all we had to do is say, go to the source. And we eliminated all drama and gossip in my healthcare company, literally using that giant tool.
Yeah.
I'll leave that image right there.
Look at this. Actually, go ahead and pull them back up, Tracy. Let's look at these if you have them there. This is the walls of that organization that actually used our language on the walls there, which is incredible to be able to do that. Yeah, I mean, think about, go to the source. It's when you say that, I don't just hear the words go to the source. Right. I'm actually seeing the visual in my mind. See, that's what neurolinguistics do. Yep. It's the hack. It's the word that represents the image, which represents the really deep concept. Do you guys see that? A couple words represent a visual, which represents something very deep and profound that can change who I am and change the people around me. Yeah, here's the walls again. So we see the nurture. It's got the words of the nurture with the person bending down and nurturing a plant. I can't tell you, the guardian on the bottom left there with the hands on the hip. Looks like to interrogate somebody.
Go, stop wasting all resources, right? The guardian, right? The character.
Yeah. And, if you're not, in Giant's ecosystem, you're probably like, what are they talking about? Like we talk about guardians with their hands on their hips and nurturers of flowers. It's one of those things that when you're on the outside, you're like, that's weird. And then on the inside, you're like, that's helpful. It's really, really helpful. Like right now, Mike's a guardian. Yeah. I know how he sees the world. He knows I'm a pioneer. He knows how I see the world. We're able to work together so much better because we understand the neurolinguistics of how we're processing information, how we're interacting with our environment, how we think about what we want and need to accomplish today. And people are very different, and you can't understand all the differences of people. It's impossible. But you can understand a couple words that bring up the image that allow you to interact at a better and deeper level, like the word pioneer or the word guardian. Those can be neurolinguistically aligned. So toolkits matter. And I wanted to really spend some time on that because in a lot of ways, I think the assessment is an easy sell, right? Because big data is a trend right now. Organizations 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you probably didn't need data or want data. You went off experience and gut instinct. But there really has been a major trend in business toward data over the last few years. So my guess is when you heard us talk about assessment, you weren't thinking, oh, no. We don't like data at our organization. We like to just guess and hope, right? It was probably an easy sell. But the toolkit idea, my guess is you were a little more skeptical. Like, well, why is a toolkit fundamental to the operating system that's going to unlock my people? Hopefully we've built a decent case, and now we're actually going to teach a specific tool. So let me show you one of our over 60 tools. We have over 60 tools that we can go into organizations and teach as a part of our operating system. But this one is one of our more famous tools and a tool that has personally affected Mike and his life. So what Mike's going to do, he's going to teach us this tool very quickly. And the reason he's going to do it is because I dare you to forget it after this call is over. If you read a book about it, you probably forget it. But I dare you to forget the visual and the basic idea when he's done teaching it. And that's going to be an object lesson in how powerful tools are and why they're fundamental to the OS. So Mike, take it away. Teach us the support challenge matrix.
Yeah. So the art of leadership is the calibration of high support and high challenge into the lives of those you lead. When people experience you bringing high support and high challenge, whenever they have, they've experienced you as a liberator. So you look at that top right quadrant and you see liberate. It's a culture of empowerment and opportunity. It's green for a reason because healthy things grow. This is the standard we call leaders to around the world, is to fight for the highest possible good and to calibrate high support and high challenge into the lives of those they lead. Sadly, Bronson, none of us are natural liberators. We were all dealt a deck of cards at the beginning of life. Half of us in the world by nature, by hardwiring, are really good at high challenge. The other half of us in the world are really good at high support. So those of us who are really good at high challenge and not that good at high support, we can tend to, under pressure, we can be dominators. It's red for a reason because there's blood in the water. They can create a culture of fear and manipulation. Bronson, we had someone on the call a few weeks back, and she said, my leader says, leave your crap at home, like only bring your work to work. Like we don't want to hear about your personal life. That leader to me sounds like someone who's very high challenge and doesn't bring a lot of support. This lady actually asked us, what do I do with that kind of thing? We said, hey, build some influence and help them understand high support and high challenge, which will benefit the team. But that's what happens when we're not careful. If we do high challenge alone, we'll create fear and manipulation. The other half of us in the world are really good at high support. That is called protector tendencies, right? You see it's yellow for a reason because it's cautious. If it's all high support, no challenge, you create a culture of entitlement and mistrust. People don't really know where they stand. It's kind of like we hint a lot. We say it's kumbaya, but there's kind of like some passive aggressive things going on. That's what it feels like to be underneath the leadership of somebody who's high support, low challenge. And then finally, if we can choose to be low support and low challenge, this happens to us when we get burnt out, when we're tired, when we have a year like 2020 and we're like, what's the next disaster that's going to happen? We can become abdicators. Low support and low challenge is gray for a reason. It's kind of, it's a culture of apathy and low expectation. It's, you know what, Bronson, just whatever. Yeah, next week's fine. I don't really care anymore. Like it's that attitude. So here's the thing. We lead in all of these four quadrants every single day. As a matter of fact, you might have certain individuals where you say, I'm really high support to that individual, but I'm really high challenge to this one. So you'll see that you have these natural tendencies, but we make these choices too of, I want to lead certain individuals or certain teams or certain parts of the organization in a certain way. So in the end, when we learn to calibrate high support and high challenge, it is amazing. Liberators around the world have tons of people that follow them and want to follow them. They're able to hire the best people and to raise them up, because when you do the hard work, the best coach, the best teacher, the best leader to do high support and high challenge, it creates that empowerment and opportunity where people love coming to work.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. So if you're watching this, here's what I want you to consider. Would you rather everyone in your organization learn this tool and apply it? Or do you want to buy them the new leadership book coming out in Q1 of 2021 and give it to them as a gift and let it be over? Which of those two do you actually think would be more impactful? If it were me, and I'm being honest, right? I'm a voracious reader. I love books. I would rather everyone in my sphere know this tool because they can hold me accountable for my leadership. I can hold them accountable for their leadership. And we can all become a liberating leader that truly unlocks ourselves and the people around us. This tool, one of the over 60 tools that we have, is more valuable than whatever event you're thinking about doing. It just is. It's more valuable than whatever book you're thinking about buying. It's more valuable than whatever course you're thinking about enrolling in. This tool is neurolinguistics. It's going to burn in your mind. And I bet if you're seeing this for the first time, you probably feel your conscience being pricked a little bit because maybe you're protecting somebody in your life or a team. Maybe you're dominating someone in your life or a team. Maybe you're abdicating in some area and you kind of checked out. But as we're going through it, you actually probably forgot you were learning about the operating system and you got immersed in the content for a moment and you started thinking about your own leadership and where you are. And that's exactly what tools do. They allow you to get lost and actually apply it instead of looking at it as an outsider, the sage on the stage, look how smart they are. You actually start applying it. It has nothing to do with how smart the tool is. It's about you applying it and becoming different because of it. So here's my challenge to you. This is the support and challenge matrix. Support on one axis, challenge on the other. When you wake up tomorrow, I dare you to forget it. Support and challenge. At Giant, we talk about this every day. Yeah. We talk about it all the time. In the organizations we work with, we talk about support and challenge. Try to forget it tomorrow. If you forget it, don't worry about the Invincible OS. Buy some book. Do whatever you're going to do. If you don't forget it tomorrow, consider what we're saying, that maybe the assessment is a good starting point and maybe a toolkit is a better way to actually transform behaviors inside your organization. If you don't forget it tomorrow, the people you work with won't either. And that's a really big deal in our society that is just overwhelmed with input. You have so many things coming at you that to have one thing like this that you don't forget, that's meaningful. That means it rose above the level of noise and became a signal in your mind that you can hang on to for a long time. Mike, any final thoughts about the toolkit or this tool before we show them how it actually works on platform?
Yeah, I do. And it actually came from what you were just saying. You sparked a thought for me is rather than us pretending like we're brilliant or thinking we know really cool things, these concepts and principles have been around for thousands of years. So the reality is we desire at Giant, we're fighting for your highest possible good. We actually want you to become the expert. Like we want to give you the tools. So like if you give me a saw and a hammer, I can become a master craftsman, right? Like you're giving me the tools. I'm not going to you saying, hey, let me read a book or let me watch the tutorial on how you're the best. I'm actually saying this tool in the hand of leaders, there are people out there who are way better at support and challenge than I am because they saw this tool, they interacted with it, they use it in their daily leadership, and they've become the most influential leader in people's lives, like far better than me. So instead of us saying, hey, we're the sage on the stage or we have all the answers, no. We have the toolkit that we want to give to you so that you become the best leaders and the best influencers in the world.
Absolutely. And so you see on the screen here, you can actually have access to learn these tools by going to giant.tv/free account. But what I'm actually going to do right now is show how it's a part of the Invincible product. So the Invincible product is what we implement with teams. It's what we implement in organizations. It's where you'll find the assessment, and it's also where you'll find the toolkit. And so when you bring your organization onto the Invincible product, you can see right here, the assessment is the first tab. The second one right here says toolkit. So all of our 60 plus tools are actually ready to be clicked by anyone in your organization. And when they click it, it brings up a video of one of our experts teaching the tool. It brings up a description of the tool, and it brings up the visual of the tool. So you have the visual, you have the video of it being taught, and you have the text description. So there's a couple things I want to point out here. One, it's on demand. So at any point when you need access to that tool, you can have access to it. Oh, let's talk about the support challenge. Let me bring it up real quick. You can bring it up, the visual's there, you can talk about it, you can teach it, whatever. But the other thing really taps into what we're going to talk about next week. Next week, we're going to talk about process as the third piece to the operating system. Because here's the thing. If I, let's say you want to be a master craftsman, Mike, and you mentioned these tools. Let's say I'm like, great, you want to be a craftsman. here's a saw, here's a hammer. I'll see you later. Good luck. Did it really do anything for you? You probably couldn't build anything that you couldn't build before, right? So there's got to be a process. What is the process to get these tools into people's mind? That's what we mean by process. And so this is where you start to see it all tie together. We take the assessment to decide to learn what the growth opportunities are. We know the toolkit can improve those scores of the assessment, but if we just give somebody the toolkit, that's not enough. The process is how we implement the toolkit in the fabric of the organization to improve the assessment. That's why the three are together. That's why they hang together. You assess them, find growth opportunities. The toolkit can improve the assessment, but not without a process to actually teach the tools to improve the assessment. So Mike, any thoughts on the toolkit as a whole, or even just the operating system now that we're kind of peeling back some of the layers and showing them how it all hangs together, that it's not three isolated elements, it's actually a system that's been well thought out?
Yeah, I'll talk about that. And then I want to talk about something Margaret put in the chat over here. And I think, yeah, really the reality of Bronson is we've been doing this for a long time, right? And we've said, how do we help organizations at the highest level? And so we went back, actually, this year is the first time we've gone back and picked up all the breadcrumbs from what's been the most impactful things we've done for organizations around the globe, for people, for individuals, for leaders in their organizations. And we said, basically, we have to assess where they're at in the first place. We have to know what's the reality, what's the benchmark. Otherwise, you hire someone to do a consulting gig or try to implement some sort of a process, or if you do that without assessing, like you said, you're going to be accidentally good at best, and you probably will spend a lot of wasted time and be frustrated. So first, you got to assess. Next, we're going to give you the tools. We're going to let you be the best in the world at it. But to Bronson's point, there's got to be a process. You have to learn the tools yourself. You have to apply them in your own life. You cannot give that which you don't possess. So you have to actually interact with these things and let them change you. Then you can go and transform other people's behavior, character, and development through using them. So the assessment, the toolkit, and the process brings together the best of what we've given people around the world for the past decade plus. Margaret said this. She said, we actually have a grievance policy within our organization, and we will be including go to the source as it brings that policy to life. So I want to make a comment to Margaret and to those of you listening. I did a one-day retreat for a team just a few weeks back. Bronson knows who it was. And it was actually really powerful. And honestly, we did take away, leave behind, and everyone had like massive things. We had like 10 things on the list of stuff they were going to go implement. And that's great. And they'll probably do most of the stuff that's on the list, but we all know it's hard to get to everything. But I told them when we left, I said, guys, after being with you for a full day, if you just implemented support challenge matrix and go to the source, you wouldn't need anything else. You said it before, Bronson. Would I want people to read the latest and greatest leadership book or do one tool? If everyone on your team, if everyone in your organization would go to the source when there were issues and reconcile between one another and fight for each other's highest possible good with high support and high challenge, it would overcome all the other drama, issues, and crap that goes on in your organization. So for me, I love that Margaret said that. And I would just say, honestly and truly, use support and challenge. You marry it with go to the source. You have some hard conversations, but you do it fighting for each other and doing it, speaking the truth in love, and you would get rid of 90+% of your problems.
So you just sparked something, Mike, that I really want to touch on, which is these tools address fundamental issues, not fringe issues. Mm-hmm. So for instance, go to the source. It's about not gossiping. It's about going to the person you have an issue with and dealing with it directly, right? That's fundamental to relationships, to communication, to alignment, to everything. It's fundamental. We have a tool called the X Factor, and it's about time management, and it's about what you should focus on and what you should not focus on. Are you doing the things that are urgent and important, or are you focus on things that are not urgent and not important? Time management is fundamental to the life of an organization. These tools are not fringe ideas. There's not a tool about how to get a better click-through rate on an email marketing campaign. That's a fringe idea. It doesn't really matter to the soul of the organization, right? There's not a tool about what color palettes are in vogue in modern design. That's not fundamental to an organization. Now, it's important for designers, and it is a part of their skill set. I'm not underplaying the details of what is in people's domains. What I am saying is these tools touch on the absolute core fundamental ideals that need to be embodied by everyone in the organization, and that's why they're so powerful. If these 60+ tools were just silly little things that didn't matter, they wouldn't be that powerful. but they're not. You pull a tool off the shelf, and it is powerful. Deborah says, is it best to just start my small team on this Invincible platform, or does the entire organization need to sign up? We get this question all the time, Mike. We actually have a saying called the bowling pin strategy, BPS. Yep. Why don't you tell us about BPS, Mike?
I will. And Deborah, I hope you like this answer, because you think about it, it's obviously the giant product Invincible that you're talking about. It would be easy for us to say, get everyone on the platform. It's great. Sign everyone up. It's going to be amazing, which would be true, but we're not going to say that. The honest truth is bowling pin strategy means this. You start with one team, Deborah. You start with you and your team. I would never scale something throughout my organization if it didn't transform me and my team first. So I say, go for it, Deborah. Like, you get you and your team on there and actually commit to the process, commit to the assessment, commit to the toolkit, commit to the process. You'll see so much transformation in your team that the other folks will want to do it. I don't like things, Bronson, that get top down in organizations of like, hey, we got this new thing. Maybe it feels like a flavor of the month and everyone has to do it. I don't like that approach. So Deborah, I really appreciate the question. And I would say you and your team start, see how powerful the stuff is, see how much transformation happens in you. And then other folks in the organization will notice and they'll want to be a part of it. And you can easily scale it out when they see how powerful it's transformed you and your team. Absolutely. And that's why we call it the bowling pin strategy. You knock over the first pin, the first team, and then it knocks over the rest. You don't knock over all the teams at once. And, to talk shop for just a moment here, because you are asking a question about implementation, is, a lot of teams or a lot of divisions have their own P&L. They can't spend a ton of money, but they do have some money allocated toward people development, leadership development, those kind of things, engagement, performance, software tools I might use. The Invincible product will come in under that cap usually. You will be able to spend your discretionary money that's allocated to your team to get them on Invincible. The price point is not so high that you need sign off from a higher up, or you need it to be an organizationally wide thing and roll it out. You can probably start it with your small team on, without spending that much money, and see the results and then start to roll it out. So we really try to make it as easy as possible. On the screen here, it says to let your team give it a try, go to giant.tv/bootcamp. So Mike, bootcamp, let's talk about that before we wrap up here. So a lot of people ask, how do I get started, right? Assessment, toolkit, process. I get it. I'm going to learn about the process next week. We haven't even talked about that yet. But what do I do like now, tomorrow? What's kind of step one to get this thing rolling and see if it's going to work for us? So in Giant, we have a saying that says relationship before opportunity. So we truly are a give first kind of company. So a lot of folks take the 5 Voices assessment and they see, the power of, hey, I'm a nurturer, I'm a creative, I'm a guardian, I've learned about myself. The next step is to get you and your team to do a 5 Voices bootcamp. And that's a free experience. And it's free for a reason. Because again, we're not asking you to buy anything that you don't believe in yet. This is the truth. So we actually give you the best 90-minute experience ever where the team learns about one another. We learn about team dynamics. We learn about where people might rub each other the wrong way. We have some laughs. Honestly, people laugh when they go, oh, Bronson always does that. He's such a pioneer. Like, it's a fun experience. And the team walks away going, okay, I know a ton more about myself, my team, how to improve. And we leave you honestly with we could actually go and just do the 5 voices and our team would get better. But you also get to learn about, if you implement the assessment, the toolkit, and process, it's going to fundamentally transform everything you do. But it starts with a 90-minute free experience that is truly the most powerful thing we can give you in 90 minutes. Yeah, that's it. So if you're interested in anything you've heard today, go to giant.tv/bootcamp. It's going to give you instructions on where to click to get that free experience. If the free experience is over and you didn't love it, we were happy to serve you. We're glad we got a chance to do it, and that is fine. If the experience is over and you're like, you know what, it's as good as they said it is. This is actually powerful. And I got to learn a few tools during that experience, and those tools were very powerful. The voice dynamic tool is taught during that, which I think is an incredibly powerful tool. It's helped my marriage. It's helped my leadership on teams. I mean, it's huge. If you get done with the experience and you did enjoy it, then we'll be able to say, hey, here's what's next. And we can show you the path forward of actually implementing the Invincible OS in a single team, in your team, and you can go from there. Mike, as always, it's just great talking through this with you. It's one of those things where I feel like we're the adults that wrapped the Christmas presents under the tree, and the kids don't know what's in them, but we're excited because once they open them, it's going to be amazing. That's the way I feel when we talk about this OS. I feel like we've put together something that is so powerful, so strategic, so simple,
that when they finally unwrap it, like we're going to be excited because of how excited they are. Do you feel that way when you talk about the OS, Mike, or is that just me being weird?
No, it's not. And I know you're the product guy, Bronson, so obviously you're going to be even closer to it than anyone else in the world. But I would say this isn't work to me. Like, this is the most fun part of my week. You and I get on here and we talk about how this is actually transforming people's lives all over the world. They're becoming the best leaders, the best influencers, and they're actually impacting the lives of the people they lead, both at work and at home. And so for me, I am that as excited as you are, because I know that once people interact with and engage with the support challenge matrix, once they actually go and say, I'm going to fight for the highest possible good of my son and make sure that I stop being a dominator, like once this stuff takes root in their lives, it's going to change. And you weren't joking, but you said before, that tool changed my life. And I say this all the time. If you sit down with me over coffee, you'll learn that the support challenge matrix changed my life forever. I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm a better leader. I'm a better friend as a result of that one tool. So I am like you in that once you open these Christmas presents, you're going to be really excited about what you've received.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Mike, as always, thanks for joining me. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm actually really excited about next week to come in and talk about process. To me, that's what pulls it all together. The assessment's amazing. The toolkit's amazing. The process is what breathes life into what's there. And so we'll get to jam on that and talk through what the operating system will actually look like inside your organization, who does what and when and why. It's going to get down to some more of the details of how this actually works, not philosophically. You need an assessment. Like, well, when do you take the assessment and who takes it? Like, we actually talk about the process. So, Mike, we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend and we'll talk soon.
All right, bud. You too.